Welcome to the Church Stuff Podcast. I am joined in the studio by Pastor Joshua Quick.
Oh boy, throwing out the P word already.
Joshua, he's a youth pastor at Grace Union.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Up in
Technically, to be that, I'm actually guy.
Yeah.
No. So I'm youth pastor there with my wife. We serve 1st through 12th graders. Mm-hmm. And so like next gen family, all of that stuff. And we've been there it'll be 5 years this June.
Nice. Where'd you go before
that? Church-wise?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I went to Faith Community in House Springs, and I was basically born in the pew there. Mm-hmm. Like my mom's water broke in the church. And then attended there, served there for 23 years of my life. And then when I turned 24, shortly after, I got hired on at Grace Union as a staff pastor. So I volunteered as junior high pastor for about 5 years before that, basically since I got out of high school, and then led a college group while I was there, and then I got headhunted, kind of, sort of, not really, but yeah. So
that's awesome. So you've been working in youth ministry primarily.
Yeah. So
youth and kids. And
and so I was so whenever I was in high school, I scheduled all the service teams, media teams and stuff like that for youth. Mm-hmm. And then as I actually graduated and actually had the title of leader or sponsor, then I started leading a high school guys group and then a college group. But yeah, it's always been teenagers until January of what year are we in? 24?
Yeah.
So January of 23, my wife and I took over elementary at Grace Union. Gotcha. And so I never thought I'd be a kids dude, but I guess it helps now that I have kids. Mm-hmm. And so that's, but my primary focus is students and now college age as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is there any other facets of ministry that you've worked in church? I'm assuming say on a Sunday you're in the booth or something or
Yeah. So, not since I've always been kind of over tech as well. Mm-hmm. We recently just hired a worship pastor, about a year ago, I guess. And he went full-time in October. And so when he went full-time, he completely took over tech to where I could focus on elementary and youth. But yeah, nice. So I helped. There was already a stream established whenever I came to Grace Union, but I helped kind of increase the quality. And then I had to put forth a pitch on different equipments and stuff and a lot of money. And that was the first for me, but I've always been kind of I can do behind the scenes or on stage, just kind of wherever I'm asked to serve. So, yeah.
So just go stack chairs.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, that's one of my, I don't know if cathartic's the right word, but it's one of my things where so I never was great as English and stuff like that. I was more of a math and science guy, but now that I have to write essays every week, essentially, it's, I use a lot of brain power, and so anything that doesn't use brain power, whether it's sweeping, mopping, vacuuming, painting a wall for 8 hours, or putting up chairs, it's I look forward to that because it's a release from having to use my brain. Okay. So that's where I'm at.
So you mentioned something, and I want to ask this because if I can get a little personal.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Kevin and I were friends before we were co-youth pastors. Right. We've been friends for 10? So probably when I was 13 was when we first met.
Right.
So 16? No. Well, 16 years.
It'd be 16, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because you were a buddy of mine, a mutual buddy of ours.
Right.
That's how we had met. You'd go over to his birthday parties and stuff.
Right.
I'd be there hanging out with his older brother and him.
Yeah.
Because he was cool. And I was like, who's this guy?
Yeah, and then I would say probably 2019 or 2018 is when we really started.
Right before pandemic, the year before.
Yeah.
And then, we just
hung
out, and now we're here.
Yeah.
But one of the things I did want to ask you, because you did mention it, you write out your sermons?
Yeah. Whenever, so for the most part I do. Occasionally there's weeks where it's you just got to do something, something comes up in the week and you just don't have the time you normally have. But yeah, I typically type out my sermons every week.
Walk me through your process. How do you start? Say you're going to sit down, you've got time.
Yeah.
How do you begin on your subject?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, a lot of it comes a little bit after personal study. And so I try not to mix whenever I'm reading the Bible for myself and immediately try to share that with someone, because I want to be able to like absorb it, reflect on it, and not like ignore that this is for me as well. And so most of the time I'll read something, I'll get excited about it, and I'm like, okay, I'll plan a series for it later on, like a couple months down the road. And so what I'll do then is I'll read through it again, and I will read a couple different commentaries. The one I mainly do is through Blue Letter Bible, blueletterbible.com. It's a fantastic resource, whether you're a pastor prepping a message or just wanting to know the ins and outs. And so you can look up like definitions where words are used at different points in the Bible to get in context, stuff like that. But I just Google David Guzik, and then that's the commentator that I really like. And then the book and chapter of the Bible, and then Blue Letter Bible. Okay. And so what that does is I just click on the link that Google provides. It takes me right there. And he breaks down and talks about like the context of this is what Jews typically did in the first century and like all of that. And then here's how it relates back to the Old Testament and the connections there. And so I learned a lot from that. And then I just write down all my thoughts, all the things that I want to say because it excites me. And then at that point, I have to pare it down. And so what I'll do a lot, this is going to sound weird, I'll kind of get all the information. During my showers, I will just start speaking based on the information I know. And then that will inform the flow of the message. And then I'll kind of take what I know and what I've written down before and then how I've said it and then kind of piece all that together in writing and then do a couple like drafts of that. But that kind of gets me to that structure stage. And then one more thing, what's really helped me in times where I have like writer's block is there's two different methods, but they kind of do the same thing. So it's from a book called Communicating for a Change by Andy Stanley. And it's the me, we, God, you, we format, which is you start off with me, like something personal, a funny story, allow your audience to get to know you and how it relates to the topic at hand. So that's me. And then we is whenever you talk about here's a problem we all face. So temptation with pornography or whatever it may be. And like here's something we all face. You're relating to everybody. And then you get to the God part, which is what does Scripture say about it? What's the biblical example? And then it goes back to it goes to you, which is like what are personal steps you can take. And then it goes to we, which is like what would our community look like, our world look like if we all took these steps. And so that's kind of a format that I follow. A simpler version of it is problem, picture, plan. And so you have the problem, you have God's picture for it, like his standard for it, and then you have the plan of like what steps can you take, what action steps. Gotcha. So that's kind of the format that I've been running with for a while now.
No, it's interesting because I've talked to a lot of different people who speak, a lot of preachers, a lot of, pastors, youth pastors. And it's one thing I always kind of like listen for is like, how do they prepare for a message? How do they prepare for this, that, and anything else? Because I have my own way of doing it. Yeah. And I know everybody else does. I do agree that like your personal like reflection period with God, your personal Bible time shouldn't correlate to like your sermon preparation for that week. Yeah, it's hard to separate those sometimes, right. But yeah. But it's like you're trying to kill two birds with one stone, but why do you want to cut the corner of like your Bible time?
Right.
And it's like what's your reasoning behind that? So I do kind of agree with that because that's a personal thing for me. I don't want to be like, oh well, I don't know what I'm speaking about this week. I just read something earlier. I'm just going to throw that out. I always want our sermons, our everything down here for these kids to be intentional and specific. And
that's why having like series planned out, so I at least know the idea of what I want to talk about. I don't have to like dive in right away, but yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of something we've done with like we've broken it up into seasons. Like we do 2 seasons a year. So far we're in the middle of our second one. So it's like I have the next 3 months planned out of like, this is our series. This is where everything flows into. And it's a lot of work in the beginning, but it helps me through the week to week to go, okay, I'm doing this. I pull it off the shelf.
Right.
Driving is a big thing for me. You got the shower. Like
I spend a lot of time in the shower. My wife hates it, but yeah.
You know who else hates it? The one who pays the water bill, which is you. But It's so true because like the shower, it's like there's nobody around you. I drive a lot on my own, so it's like I'm just there. If somebody hides a camera in my car, they're gonna get some weird stuff.
Yeah.
Because like I will plan out and talk out a sermon and just beginning to altar call, because I never do plan out the altar calls. I don't think you should.
Yeah.
That should be a moment thing. Like I don't want to rehearse or give a canned prayer or anything like that.
Right. You can have like an idea of maybe if it's about a certain thing, like you're gonna pray over this topic.
Yeah.
But like you don't like, it should be led by the Spirit type thing.
Yeah.
I got you.
So it's like sometimes I'll think like, okay, do I want to do an altar call this way or that way? Do I want to have them take people who for like first time salvation over here and talk to them? Do I want them to come up to the front? How do I want to do that? What would fit best in this message kind of thing?
Yeah.
But everybody has a different way of doing that. What do you guys do like when you... Oh, hold on. Sorry. How do I... Haha! Got it! Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. I was just answering questions on text, so
No,
you're good.
I don't know why that ringer was on. But what was I talking about?
You were talking about different ways of doing things, and then
talk about that, and then so everybody does something a little bit different. Especially like trying to create a service.
Yeah.
So like, what is your service flow like?
Sure. So we're actually in the process of adjusting that, and really it depends on whether it's we call them tribes, but small groups night. So I'll just kind of give you a lay down of the whole structure. So on non-tribe Wednesdays, which we do tribes 2 months on, 1 month off, basically. So on non-tribe Wednesdays, how we're doing it is the first Wednesday of each month, tentatively, is a night of worship, church-wide night of worship. So we don't have youth that night. The youth are encouraged to participate and join, but we don't have like a service. And then the second and fourth Wednesdays would be the same in terms of we open up with a game. I do a message, maybe do like an altar call or action steps or some type of extra thing, and then we do a big game at the end. So the first game is typically like a minute to win it game where we give away something, and then the second game is like everybody participates, like dodgeball or relay race type deal.
Gotcha.
And so it's a little bit more bigger, and then that way, the reason why we do that is yes, the gospel is important, scripture is important, all that stuff, and I believe that is the core point of it. At the same time, it's really great whenever parents know they're dropping their kids off and they're excited, and then whenever they pick them up and they're excited. And so we do the games at the end to make sure they're like energetic and had fun and share that with their parents, in addition to sharing what they learned about in Christ. And so like seeing that, they tend to get excited whenever it comes to the games. So whenever on the third Wednesday of each month, though, we have our worship leader come up, and so he'll work with our student band, and so we'll have like a full band with a few singers, and we'll do like 3 songs of worship with the minute to win it game before worship to get everyone kind of like engaged and energetic. Then we do 3 songs of worship, message, and then a big game at the end again. Maybe just less time for games because we have worship in. And then on tribe nights, it's similar, except instead of a big game at the end, we do tribe time. And we've done that a few different ways as far as like how the small groups and tribes work. But in terms of going back to like how do I prep for my messages and stuff like that, part of coming up with small group questions that I've changed recently is I'll take my sermon that's all typed up, I'll put it in the chat GPT, and I'll be like, come up with questions based on this sermon for 12 to 14-year-olds or 12 to 18-year-olds. And then what it'll do is it'll come up with like 10 questions, and you can do it multiple times. I'll come up with 10 different questions each time. But it's very, like, honestly, it's better than any question I could come up with, because most of the time I come up with like deep questions. When it comes up with very... sets them up for success questions to where it's easier for them to engage because junior hires aren't thinking super deeply like a college student would, that type of thing.
Yeah. So you use ChatGPT, so you cheat.
On small group questions. Yeah.
No,
So
I use AI stuff too. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
Not to like write a sermon, but like I'll use it. I used it for graphics for this last sermon.
Yeah.
I was just like, we're talking about being out in
Canva,
the
baby.
cold.
Canva is awesome.
I did Canva. I have Photoshop, so I do like the Photoshop AI. And I was just like, I need a man in the middle of the cold wilderness.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, boop, got it. And I was like, cool.
Yep.
Write your stuff and you're done.
Another resource, I use Canva primarily now, but before Canva, and I use Photoshop too. Like I do Canva stuff and then I do final touches in Photoshop. But in terms of like pre-made graphics, FreePik, FreePik.com has a lot of like good stuff too.
Yeah, they have a lot of stock stuff.
Yeah.
And there's also, for those of you out there that are like the tech people, Photoshop, I know you have to pay per month, but it's called Photopea, Photopea. Photopea, I think is what it is.
I've never heard of it. So
it's Photoshop in browser. It's free.
Okay.
It's 100% free, but it is Photoshop, like all the tools.
Yeah.
All the like.
So can you
layout.
use like keyboard shortcuts and stuff like that too?
What do you mean?
Since it's in browser, like Control C or
I think it's got its own. I think it's got its own kind of shortcuts, or it may not let you use that. That might be. I'm not entirely sure because I've not tried. But you can use Photoshop, and it even exports everything as you can export it as a Photoshop file.
Yeah.
And then edit it later.
Interesting.
But those that are out there that want to learn that stuff, I was helping a pastor the other day, pastor of a church up north, and he's shout out to Craig Miller. But
I don't know you, but shout out.
Yeah, shout out. He posted a thing. He's just like, hey, I need to make some like QR codes, and I just got done making them. And Adobe has a free thing.
Yeah.
For making QR codes.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things I'd worked on when I first started messing with it. I accidentally used a paid thing, and it was like a trial. So I printed out 1,000 touch cards with QR codes that were no longer working.
Yep, because the code expired.
Because the code expired, and they're like, "Oh, you can pay like $80 a year," and I'm like,
Dude, was it? I did a site where it was $80 a year, but it was pounds. Like it was the pounds equivalent,
yeah,
so it was like a European site.
It wasn't the same one as that.
Okay,
but it's very similar.
Yeah,
and now I have 1,000 touch cards that none of the QR code work on.
We, not to like one up you or anything, but in terms of my mistakes, I've made plenty. I got scammed one time. I remember. But I did the same thing where I thought, okay, I just need the time to make the QR code. I didn't realize the code expired, and so we put it on all of our lanyards, and we made stickers of it and put it on the backs of all our seats, so people, like for our Connect card basically. Yep. And so after it expired and people started saying like, hey, this actually isn't going anywhere, thank God they let us know. Which, by the way, if you notice a technical issue and you are a churchgoer or a staff member or whatever, like let your pastors know, because most of the time they don't realize. So anyway, so we had to reprint all those. Luckily, what we do, our database stuff through provides QR codes for all our forms and stuff, and so that's all included.
That's cool.
Yeah,
because I have an Adobe account, so like I look on there all the time to see what new stuff they add, because they do have stock stuff you can download, like videos and pictures. Yeah, but the QR thing is just like, here's a QR, and it's so easy. They're just like, type in the website, here's your QR code. You want to download it? There you go. Yeah, there's no like, click this, do that. Like there's no hoops to jump through.
Yeah, you just copy and paste and then submit.
That's it.
Yep.
And I made it in like 2 seconds. And this pastor guy, he needed it for his stuff, and I'm just like, here it is for Facebook and website. And he's like, dude, that's so fast. I'm like, yeah, that's what we do.
The internet. It's technology. Yeah. So yeah.
But there's stuff like that. Like I try to make myself available for, especially other pastors and other people that are like, I need to know this tech stuff more. And they may not have a tech guy at your church, or any tech person at your church. And if you are out there, say you are going to a church and you are good with tech, offer your services. They can definitely need your help.
I cannot stress this enough. The number one way to get connected with your church, to feel like you're part of a family, part of a community, is by joining a team, like a service team, whether that's youth or whether that's tech or worship or whatever. And so that's one thing that we've really been focusing on as a church, because we're noticing that people feel a lot more, I don't know if rewarded is the right way, but they experience the gospel, they experience the love and the welcoming, and then there's just another level to it when you're also the one providing that welcoming experience for someone else.
There's a sense of ownership, like you're actually doing something and helping.
Yeah, and so it's been crazy what's happening at the church as far as people's involvement and engagement and all of that stuff. And so if you're watching and you've been wondering, like, when do I do it? Like, just do it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to make a lifelong commitment. Just do it, and then talk it out with your team lead.
Well, and there's stuff like I was talking to a guy who's been helping us out, Colton. Shout out to Colton. He's been helping us out do like coffee house stuff and like that. And I was like, hey, do you want to learn how to do computer so you can like help out during the service? Because coffee house stuff's before. And I'm just like, just want to get him involved. And he's like, well, I'm not really, like I play video games. I don't do like, I'm like, dude. And I broke it down as simple as I could. You just click buttons. It's all in order for you. It's all like, you click this, then you click this, then you click this. It's all in order, and it's all right there on the screen.
So a lot of people, especially when they look at soundboards, they're like overwhelmed and think it's this complicated thing.
Yep.
And if you ask the team lead or whoever's running it, like, it ends up being a lot more simple than you think it is. And so I always equate it like this, that whenever you first started driving, you were nervous. Yeah. And now it's second nature.
Right.
And so it's like, one of our students is learning to drive, and he'll get his license in June, and he's kind of nervous about it. And his dad's like, look, there's a lot more dumb people than you out there in cars. Yeah. And so, like, if they can figure it out, you can figure it out.
Right.
And so technology nowadays, you don't have to know frequencies and stuff like that. Like, and if you want to, there's definitely room for that.
Yeah, there's a learning curve. But like you say, a soundboard, once you initially set it up, how much do you really adjust week to week?
So
unless you have like new people constantly, it's usually just set.
No, yeah. So I can't speak to main side because I haven't touched that in a little bit. But in youth, like, we just adjust sliders for volume as far as like who's leading a song.
Yeah.
Or if the keyboard needs to be a little bit louder in this part, but we don't adjust like. Yeah. Again, we don't really mess with EQ very much or anything like that. Yeah. So
with ours, it's a digital board, and it's mostly like we set it and we just save it, and then most of the time we come in and it's fine.
Yeah.
It especially helps us because we share this building with the youth and like the younger kids and like rentals and stuff like that. So if somebody comes in and messes with stuff, we've already have our stuff saved, so we can always just recall right back to what we saved, and we're fine.
Yeah.
Which it's very cool because like. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
It really isn't. You are right. It will become second nature.
Right.